On April 7th, 1517, the soldiers came. A band of more than 2,000 men, comprised in large part of elite Aztec eagle warriors, stood at the border of a small Tlaxcalan village. Their orders were simple, yet brutal. Sack the village and remove any trace of its existence from the face of the earth. All able-bodied men were to be summarily executed. All women and children that managed to survive the battle were to be sold into slavery. The village, once deprived of all material wealth, was to be set ablaze in a fire that should last no less than 3 days. Central Mexico was dominated by the Aztec Empire, formerly known as the Mexica civilization. Its capital, Tenochtitlan, stood at the center of a vast tribute network, created through conquest and intimidation. Yet one region remained fiercely independent, the confederation of city-states known as Tlaxcalan civilization. For decades prior to Spanish contact, the Aztecs and Tlaxcalans were locked in a persistent and highly ritualized conflict that shaped the political landscape of central Mexico. The Tlaxcalans lived east of the basin of Mexico in a mountainous region that made large-scale conquest difficult. Unlike many neighboring states, they successfully resisted incorporation into the Aztec tributary system. As the Aztecs expanded under rulers such as Moctezuma I and Ahuitzotl, they conquered numerous surrounding polities but failed to subdue Tlaxcala. Instead, a tense equilibrium emerged. The Aztecs blockaded Tlaxcalan trade routes and attempted to weaken the region economically, while the Tlaxcalans maintained their independence through strong internal alliances and defensive warfare. One defining feature of this conflict was the institution known as the Flower Wars. Beginning in the mid-15th century, these were arranged battles fought between the Aztecs and their allies, especially the cities of Tenochtitlan, Texcoco, and Tlacopan, the Aztec Triple Alliance, and the Tlaxcalan states. Unlike wars of conquest, Flower Wars had specific ritual and military purposes. They allowed both sides to train warriors and capture prisoners who would later be sacrificed in religious ceremonies honoring gods such as Huitzilopochtli. The root cause of this day's conflict dated back to a battle fought just a few months prior. Aztec general Tizoc, whose translated name means "he who bleeds," was on patrol about 30 miles outside of the capital city of Tenochtitlan, when a larger band of Tlaxcalan warriors came upon his camp. Although being outnumbered nearly 3-to-1 in fighting strength, Tizoc's warriors fought bravely. Amongst him were Tizoc's 2 eldest sons, Cacamatzin and Yautl. Cacamatzin was lost early in the fight due to an intense barrage of arrow fire. His other son, Yautl, managed to return home with his father after ultimately retreating from their camp. Tizoc, now standing at the head of his elite army, pointed forward, giving his men the order to attack. Like clockwork, the battle was ruthlessly efficient. It took no more than an hour to eliminate the fighting force protecting the village, as the Tlaxcalans were unprepared to meet the army that came upon them. Those few men who did manage to resist found themselves quickly put down at spear point. As the fighting subsided, consolidation efforts promptly began. Women and children were forcibly removed from their tents and separated. Anything of value, from pottery and kitchen utensils to family heirlooms and jewelry, were placed in storage sacks. The 100 or so turkeys within a gated fence, along with all of the dried fish and corn inside the village storage locker, were consumed immediately by the warriors. It took Tizoc and his men the entire afternoon to consolidate all resources within the village, leaving one final task to complete before departure. Prior to engaging the enemy, Tizoc informed his men that the battle that was about to take place was not entirely a strategic matter, but a personal one. He emphasized the losses they took when their camp was attacked months ago. He cited the loss of his eldest son, Cacamatzin, and called up Yautl directly to avenge the death of his brother. Yautl would personally lead a small team of eagle warriors into the tent of the Tlaxcalan village chief. Tizoc's instructions were clear. He is to remain alive after being captured. Once the battle is over, I will meet with him personally. Upon entering the chief's tent, Tizoc was pleased to find his instructions were followed to perfection. Hands and feet bound together, head braced down to the floor, the Tlaxcalan chief lie motionless. Tizoc bent over and calmly asked the chief, "If our roles were reversed, and you came upon the man who gave the orders that ultimately took the life of your oldest son, what would you do?" The chief, knowing full well that there would be only one outcome from this meeting, looked up at Tizoc and said, "If a man were responsible for taking the life of my eldest son, he would join him in the afterlife." Acting immediately after hearing this, Tizoc ordered Yautl to personally honor the chief's wishes. Yautl flipped the chief over from the ground so he can see the look in his eyes while plunging his spear through his chest. As the chief lay dying, Tizoc ordered the men to clear out the remaining contents of the chief's home and property as quickly as possible, as they would not be staying the night. While clearing out the last of the chief's family and property, Yautl noticed a small and what appeared to be displaced tent approximately 200 feet behind the main residence. With about 10 minutes of sunlight left, Yautl cautiously approached, weary of any potential ambush. Upon entering the tent, Yautl was surprised to find a young woman. Her hands were tied to a post, clothing unfit for any woman in that village, let alone a family member of the chief. Yautl quickly deduced that the young woman was being held captive. While cutting the rope in an attempt to free the woman's hands, Yautl asked what her name was. His attempt at polite conversation was met with silence. Yautl was unable to determine whether or not they spoke different languages, or if the fear she held within was so deeply ingrained that she couldn't find the words to properly respond. Just as he cut the last piece of rope from her hand, he noticed what appeared to be an etching carved out on the wooden post he just freed her from. It read the name Guadalupe.